I was doing some math. I woke up in the morning after shooting at f4 exclusively the entire weekend. And the reason I was doing that is because I had a test. I wanted to test if f4 is the right aperture for me, given the imminent release of the Fuji GFX100RF. Now, how am I doing this test is not like for like, apples for apples comparison, because I don't have a medium format camera. What I do have is a Nikon Zf full frame 35mm sensor with a 26mm f2.8 lens that I can shoot at f4. It's kind of close in a way because that lens on the GFX100RF is roughly a 30mm, 28 some people have been saying, so 26 I'm kind of close. So my idea was, if I can shoot every single image that I want as an everyday camera at f4 in available light, in indoor scenarios, because after all, this camera is a fun camera, and it's a camera that I want. This next camera, not specifically the GFX100RF, but this next camera that I was looking at is the fun, pocketable, everyday shooting camera. So as a test, I thought f4 and leave it there would be something quite interesting to do, even though the photodiodes, the microns, the pixels and sensor, there's a whole bunch of different variables that don't make it exactly ideal. But as a test, as a rough simulation to see if I could enjoy and get the shots that I wanted, this was my test. The good news is I could actually get away with f4 pretty well, but again, the Nikon Zf does have the IBIS, in-body image stabilization, which is a bit of a cheat. And it does have rather large photodiodes, a higher ISO floor, or ceiling rather, compared to the upcoming GFX100RF. And some other benefits. It's known for its really good low light performance. What am I to do? So I started to do some maths. I got my pen and I got my pad out and I started to compile some of the results, and I started to look really closely at what this really meant. So let me get my iPad out and let me share the notes. So the question I posed to myself is this: if a camera with a lens combination is 681% higher max native ISO and a 27% larger pixel area, and an f1.7 compared to an f4 lens, but the difference is in full frame versus medium format, what does that really equate to? ChatGPT says, AI. Excellent question. This is where photographic physics meets real-world perception, and I'll walk you through this with clear practical insight. I didn't quite trust that clear practical insight, so I did some maths myself. And let me warn you, as a creative director, math is not my strong suit. That's why I went into the arts. But let's walk through what I did from a mathematical point of view. So comparing, hypothetically, the Leica Q3 with its f1.7 aperture lens, its ISO 100,000 ceiling, and it's got expandable and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not interested in any of that expandable stuff because it always is rubbish on cameras. And it's a full frame 35mm sensor. What I'm really interested in is that full frame 35mm sensor, even the one on the Leica Q, but there is different sensor tech and technology, slightly different in the cameras in the last 10 years. So there are some different computing going on in the camera as well. But at the crux of the question and crux of the math here is, can that hypothetical medium format f4 lens on that GFX100R or any medium format camera, even the X2D or the 907X from Hasselblad, can they compete or compare rather? And that's where I went to. So the first point is on the math is f1.7 versus f4. and effective light gathering. Effective light gathering. There is an aperture difference, yes, but medium format is a much bigger sensor and it has better dynamic range and hypothetically low light performance. So if the aperture difference at f1.7, there is approximately 5.5 times more light than f4. 5.5 times. That's over 2.5 stops advantage in exposure. The result is at ISO 3200 at f1.7, hypothetical camera A equals ISO 20,000 plus needed on camera B, which is a medium format camera, to match. And this is at f4. This alone forces medium format to use higher ISO just to equal the basic exposure on that f1.7. Let's go to the next point, which is 681% higher native ISO. What that really means. So what I wrote down here in my little scratchy notes is that that's approximately 2.8 stops more headroom, assuming image quality is usable. So camera A can push ISO cleanly up into 25,000 to 50,000 range. This is the camera A is the 35mm full frame, while the medium format hits the ceiling at around 12,800 ISO. So even with a better sensor, the medium format will start introducing noise or require denoising long before camera A does. But then here's the trick. We know that AI and the plethora of different tools available are incredibly good at denoising images. And just in fact, NVIDIA, I think, recently introduced some additional tools which can further enhance some of the AI models, introducing some more realism. So perhaps there's even going to be another step in the future where if the denoising starts to look a little bit plasticky or a little bit overdone in some of these applications, there's going to be further enhancements. But for the purpose of what we've got available today, and what that means is that you've got a little bit more processing to do. And for my typical needs and my use, which are definitely not yours perhaps, is I am not looking to retouch. That is the day job. I'm looking for fun and ease of access and just a beautiful image straight out of camera. And I've learned to love and shoot JPEGs recently. So let's talk about the breakdown of the pixel area now. So 27% larger pixel area, which is the pixel pitch measured in microns. So this affects the dynamic range, the low light performance per pixel, and the noise characteristics. But here's the kicker, right? Camera A's pixel size is close to a medium format. For example, 5 to 6 microns. Then it already gains most of the benefits of a clean shadow and tonal roll-off, and it doesn't have the same field of compression or shallow depth of field from the larger format. The last point that I was looking at is number 4 is sensor size versus lens speed and the trade-offs. Medium format sensor has better dynamic range, it has more bit depth, it has better tonal roll-off, like it's amazing tonal roll-off, and less distortion in wide angle edges. Full frame sensor plus fast lens has better low light usability, shallower depth of field, lower ISO requirements, and tends to be more compact. But I must say that this camera B / hypothetical Fuji GFX100RF is very, very compact. It's a very impressive miracle of technology and engineering. So let's give you a visual example that I was trying to play around in my head. I was trying to work out these scenarios and compare it to my test of the weekend. Visual example on this. Imagine this. You're shooting it indoors with ambient light. This is 99% of what my work is nowadays, and also my personal work. The full frame f1.7 is at ISO 6400, clean, crisp. The medium format is at about f4, and I have to push into 40,000 to get the same exposure. But the native cap on this camera is potentially 12,800. And I am more interested in the native ISO performance, none of this boosted, expanded stuff. Now you're in expanded ISO territory. You're cleaning up noise and you've got a slower workflow, but that's okay because photography is an intentional art. And we, by definition, we're standing, we're composing, we're taking photos. We're not machine gun running gun. I mean, like, the result is either you lose the shot or you have a degraded file. So what's the bottom line? The full frame f1.7 lens is higher ISO, is more versatile. It's forgiving, it's a practical tool in low light conditions, which is everything that I'm shooting. The medium format is better in controlled, well-lit or deliberate environments where dynamic range and bit depth matter more than speed, i.e. my professional advertising work, my ginormous billboards, my huge imperceptible just detail when it comes to those pixels, and I need the absolute giant sensor. Medium format, without a doubt, is going to and just destroy that full frame. But I don't need that because from my math here and what I've been working out is full frame advantage still wins in this scenario, even with the medium format size and size edge. The aperture and ISO advantage of camera A is greater in real world impact. And that's really important for me. Putting this down, that is what it comes down to me. Just that real world practical use for me. And that's why my test at f4, trying to simulate what it would be like to own this camera and shoot with something relatively compact. I used the camera comparison online to make sure that I've got similar sizes and weight and all these kind of things so that I can simulate what potentially would be quite an expensive purchase, but I must say comparably cheaper to something that Leica offers with the Q3. And you're getting a much bigger sensor with better dynamic range. But I don't have the availability nor the interest to carry strobes around with me, or I don't have the interest of having a very bloated workflow. I say that very carefully because I really was considering the Fuji GFX100RF in the future, but I wanted to make sure that rather than making a rash decision on another purchase, that that quite expensive purchase, but cheap compared to the Leicas and the other brands in the world, is really going to suit my needs. And the second point is that real world experience. If I can simulate it and get everything I need with the camera that I've got, then do I really need to have that camera? And the third thing is it going to add anything to my workflow or to my photographic experience? Or is it going to bring something that's going to change the way that I photograph? And lastly, you know, the world's got some hard economic times ahead of us, right? So dropping several $1,000s on another camera isn't the best choice, I feel, at this point in time. So to wrap this video up, what I wanted to do is just share a perspective that helps you consider if the choice or if that kind of tug at the heartstrings of the camera that you're looking for really is something that's going to fill a gap or a need for you. Test it. And if you can't test it, simulate it. And that's why I went into so much research to understand about the pixel pitch, the pixel performance, the photodiodes, the shutter, the camera ergonomics, the size, the weight, the cost of maintaining the camera as well. Like, these are all important considerations because this is a piece of equipment that's, if it can be both practical and something that you enjoy, then great. And for me, potentially the Leica Q3 or the Leica Q system is a compelling offering, albeit a very expensive one, because it offers things that supplement my existing experience. What I mean is that if I were to consider jumping to a Q3 from my current Leica Q, it does video. It has higher megapixels that may be helpful, but not really. The phase detection autofocus is very good. I think that's a very good upgrade. The lens has not really changed, and that thing is the only reason why I ever consider buying like a Q2 or Q3. The 28mm lens attached to that camera is fantastic. It is the only reason. The camera itself, whilst it's okay, it's similar to a Sony a7CR. But yes, the finish is better, and the I guess the plastic fantastic versus the aluminium, metal, whatever it is on the Leica Q system, it's a much premium finish. It looks much nicer. It feels nicer. So yeah, all in all, I hope this didn't come across as too much of a ramble, but I was testing it because it's timely. It's a timely video to bring out, given that's what's happening. We've got the Sigma BFs, we've got the Fuji GFX100RF, we've got some new Panasonic cameras, the Lumixes, we've got, what else is coming out? There is some new Canon cameras, but Canon is sticking to their plastic fantastic ocean plastic cameras, which I hate. And yeah, just wanted to share some perspective, and I hope it helps. I hope it sheds some light and helps you have a more considered and informed choice for your own purchases. I'm going to stick to doing some photos now. I'll share a gallery of photos here of shooting at f4 if you're interested, and I've peppered a few throughout the video so you get a sense of what you can be achieved. Different focal lengths with this little combo of the Nikon Zf, the 26 f2.8, and it's shot at f4. Keep creating, everyone. Cheers. Just let